So despite what most science-based trainers think, faster eccentrics are actually better for creating stretch-mediated adaptations, and they also are more fatiguing because they create more muscle damage. So if you know that eccentrics cause more muscle damage and also cause stretch-mediated growth in muscle fibers, then it's kind of intuitive to think that having a longer eccentric will create more muscle damage and also more stretch-mediated adaptations. However, it's very rare in that eccentric to have a high level of activation, because the way you decide to produce more force is by activating more muscle fibers. So inherently, because you're lowering the weight, you are activating fewer muscle fibers. The one time that you will actually have a high level of activation while the muscle fiber is contracting eccentrically is when you're transitioning from the eccentric to the concentric, specifically if the exercise doesn't bottom out and doesn't have a dead stop. So when you're transitioning, the faster you're going, the more difficult it'll be to slow it down to start transitioning into the concentric. While yes, having a slower eccentric, if you measure it by the amount of time, it's longer with a slower eccentric, but with the quicker eccentric, you will actually have higher peak levels of activation during an eccentric contraction, and therefore will be getting passive tension and stretch mediated growth in more muscle fibers, and also more fatigue and more muscle damage. And activation is really important. I'm not going to get into exactly why. Think about it like this. If just the fact that it was an eccentric contraction was producing passive tension, you would be creating a ton of passive tension, even holding no weight and just anytime a muscle is lengthening. So if you want to minimize fatigue on an exercise that doesn't have a dead stop, you should actually use a slower eccentric. And if you want to create more stretch mediated muscle growth or maintain it, then you actually want a quicker eccentric.